Hello and welcome to the Free Motion Challenge Quilting Along. I'm Angela Walters from Quilting is My Therapy, and in this video tutorial we're going to talk about creating pointy designs with rulers that may or may not be pointy. I'm going to show you how to quilt motifs, we're going to talk about border designs, and I'm going to show you how to quilt them on a sewing machine and a long arm. So let's get to it. I'm going to be working with a Taj ruler first, and we're going to be talking about how to create a border design simply by repositioning the ruler. If you're quilting along with me on the custom challenge panel, we're going to be working within this gray border, and we're actually going to pretend as though there were a seam right here dividing these two spaces. So I'm going to start with my needle at the edge of my border. I like to have my needle in place first, that way the border doesn't shift as I'm trying to reposition my ruler. Then I'm going to line up Taj with the edge of the seam. Taj is a little too big for this border. I actually have two different options. I could make Taj a little shorter by sliding it down so that it doesn't reach the point, or I can make Taj narrower by repositioning. Let's try the first option, where I slide the ruler down and always reposition it so I have about 1/4 of an inch in between the edge of my border and the top of my Taj ruler. I'll just make sure that I use the same placement as I reposition the ruler. Now Taj has reference points around it, but if your ruler doesn't, you can use like a washi tape or glow line tape to mark that reposition point. Once I've decided how I'm going to use a ruler, I'm going to have it positioned and quilt along the edge of it. But here's the thing, since I have 1/4 of an inch spacing in between my needle and the edge of my foot, if I go around that point, I'm not going to get a sharp point, I'm going to get more of a rounded point. What we're going to do, we're going to go all the way along it until I can't go any further. And once I feel that I'm going to run off the edge of the ruler, then it's time to reposition. I'm going to stop, slide the ruler over, and come right back down the other side. And I'm going to stop once I get to that seam. Once I've quilted along the outside of it, I'm going to leave that needle in place and bring the ruler back on over and continue on. All the way up to that point, not going around. I'm going to reposition it to the other side. So that's pretty much the trick to getting those points. But if you remember in the beginning, I said that there were two different ways that you can change the shape of your ruler. One being making it skinnier, so we're going to see that option. I'm still going to use the reference lines on my ruler. I really like to put those on the seam, it makes it a little bit easier. And I'm going to quilt along the ruler until I touch the seam, or pretty close, and then I'm going to switch the ruler to the other side. We're still getting those points, but we're going to be narrowing the ruler just a bit. Stopping when I get ready to run into the other side. Here's the trick though. If I stop at this point of the ruler, that means where I start again should be the same height on the other side. That's going to help keep it symmetrical on both sides. That reposition line should be directly across from each other. Then I'm going to reposition it to the other side, and then I can continue down. Okay, so let's check out the difference between them. In this particular example, I'm actually taking advantage of the widest part of the ruler, so it's going to give me a little bit of an overlap. Whereas the other side, I'm really taking advantage more of the top part of the ruler. So you'll really see these differences come into play if you have a ruler like Taj that's wider at the bottom and pointier at the top. I mean, kind of like my body shape. I tend to prefer this option because I can get them a little bit closer together and get that more dense quilting. If you want to add a little bit more detail, you can actually quilt them so that they offset each other. The trickiest part is figuring out where to put your first shape. This was where I started that border. That means this is where my middle needs to go, so I'm going to kind of use that as my reference. So I'm going to kind of line that reference line where it's directly above the one I've just quilted. But here's the thing I have to remember, right? There's 1/4 inch in between the needle and the edge of the foot. I'm going to slide it over just 1/4 of an inch to take that into account. As I'm finagling this, it might be hard to remember that. I can use my water-soluble marker or something, make a dot, and that will show me where I need to put my foot. Because if I'm going to put my foot down first, then put my ruler, I got to know where it goes. Or I could just hold it in place, bring it over, and then drop my foot. If I'm not sure, if I'm a little nervous about it, like, oh, how's this going to turn out? I can take just a second and reposition the ruler and see if it lines up. So now I'm going to put my second row of arcs. Repositioning and then quilting on. I'm going to like almost fall off the tippy top, and then I'm going to reposition and work my way down. If your first row doesn't look very good, adding another row, offsetting it will help cover it up a bit. Plus, it's going to make the quilting just a little bit more dense, and I love the look of it. All right, now let's take this over to the long arm, where we'll talk about turning the corner, all fun and games until it's time to turn the corner. When I'm working on an area like this, what I'm going to do is get pretty close to the corner. So I'm going to quilt maybe just another shape, going up to the tippy top, and then I'm going to reposition on the other side, and then continue on the other side. So we have our first line. My main goal is to end up at this inner corner right here. I'm gonna stop and see how is it gonna end up if I keep going. And it looks like I'm gonna have not quite enough room to end at that point. So I have an option here. I can quilt a regular size one and then a really skinny one, or I can quilt two of them that are a little skinnier, and that's actually what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna quilt this, except this time I'm gonna reposition to a slightly different point on my ruler. So normally I would reposition it so that's even on both sides. But what I'm gonna do is just scoot it over just a bit, up and over just a little bit, and it's gonna shrink it down. So you can tell just shifting it a little bit has already brought it closer, but I wanna get it right on that dot. So let's do it again. So what I've done is I've taken the spacing and kind of adjusted it over a couple of these shapes instead of doing it at the very end. If you spread the difference over a bunch of the shapes, it's going to blend in. And my next one is going to come right out the opposite side. So for this minute, I'm just kind of ignoring that the border corner is even there. I'm actually going to come back and add some offset arcs, so I'm going to leave it empty for now. But if I were only doing one row, this is where I would definitely just put something in here. I'm going to quilt the next row so that the point comes right in the middle where the two join. And even if they're not perfectly centered, it's still going to give it a really cool effect. Now I'm to the point where I'm going to get ready to come into that corner. What I'm going to do is instead of ending on the inner corner, I'm going to end at this point over here. Basically, I'm imagining that there is a square in this point. Now at this point, I can do a lot of different things in this corner, and what I'm going to do is a partial motif, where I'm going to come in, out, back, and onto the other side. And now I can continue on with my design. And there we have a beautiful design that turns the corner. Now, of course, if you didn't want to put all that thought into it, you could add just a filler or a different design altogether. Now let's use our pointy rulers to create motifs. I know this will be the third week in a row that we've worked with motifs, but it's definitely a design worth learning, and if nothing else, it'll make you comfortable with going in all different directions. For the first time, we're going to be combining rulers. I'm going to be quilting a motif in this square right here. I'm going to use my arc ruler to add some curves from side to side to shrink it down just a bit. So let's look at this. If I want to quilt my arc in this shape, it's not fitting, is it? Now, if I start over here, and then quilt and change, I could make that work. Or I could center it on the square, leaving about 1/4 of an inch on each side, and then quilt it that way. And then once I have it in position, I'm gonna quilt that arc. I'm gonna do the same on all 4 sides. Now I have my curves around the outside. 3 out of 4 of them came perfectly to the corner, so that's above average, I'll take it. Now I'm going to use my ruler to make a motif here in the center. This time we're going to be repositioning the ruler to make it fit the space. So like every other motif, I'm going to find the center of my area. Then I'm also going to be looking for the halfway point on each side. And then I'm using these lines right here kind of as my guide. So basically 8 different points that I'm reaching out to. So we're going to start in the center and we're going to work our way to our first point. The difference is I'm only going to be using part of this ruler to create the motif. So once I have my needle in place, I'm going to find the best positioning for Taj so that I can make it up to that point. Then once I get to there, I'm going to just move the ruler to the other side and do the same thing. Even though this ruler is short and wide, it's going to make a long and skinny motif. So if I'm going to go out to this point or somewhere close, I'm going to position my needle first and then position my ruler and find where I want it to fall on that line. Now I gotta remember, I still want to keep 1/4 inch space in between the dot and the edge of my rulers, and once it has that perfect position, I'm going to quilt along it. Okay, so once I'm there, repositioning the quilt is something that you can do to make it easier, but as you get more comfortable with quilting, try to go in all different directions. It'll just be a more efficient way to quilt. And I want to come back to the starting point. So now I'm going to position it on the other side, and I'm going to rotate the ruler and kind of maneuver it around until I find the placement that gets me about 1/4 of an inch from that center. Now at any point, if I need to, I can reposition it. I can move it around, I can rotate it, whatever helps me get to that center point. And there we have the first part of that motif. Now I'm going to do the same in all the other corners. So if I want to make it to this point, I'm going to put the needle down, make sure it's in place, find the best positioning for that ruler, and then quilt to that dot. And then back to the center. Now I'm using a contrasting thread so that you can really see what I'm doing, but if you were quilting this on the actual panel, go ahead and use a peppermint thread in this area. And it's going to be okay if all the petals aren't, and even if all the petals aren't the same size or shape, it's going to be okay. Focus more on hitting that center point and keeping your line smooth. So I have my 4 different petals all coming together in the center, and if I wanted to, I could stop right here, but I'm actually going to add some more. Now I have a couple different options. If I wanted to, I could use the cutout of Taj to create that shape, and it would actually fit pretty perfectly, or I can use the outside to do the same thing. I'm going to keep on working from the outside since that's the whole point of this challenge, but definitely feel free to use your cutouts. Or you can use a different shape altogether. I think it would look really neat if you did some circles in here. I'm just saying. Everything else is the same though. I'm still going to reposition the ruler, find that perfect placement, and then quilt along. And there we have that pretty motif that perfectly fits the area. Okay, so now it's your turn. If you're quilting along with me on the custom panel designed for the challenge, fill in the areas highlighted in red with different designs. You can try out motifs and border designs. You can try turning the corner or not. I hope you're enjoying the challenge so far. If you've enjoyed this video or any of the prior tutorials, I hope you'll give them a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget, I have the downloadable quilting diagrams that you can find in the description box below. They'll show you how to create some of these designs. And I'll be back next week where I'll show you how to create clamshell designs and combining rulers to create really neat effects. Until then, happy quilting.